become you are really hard to bear at times, we resign and surrender to you as we realize shadows will always be there with us. Whenever you have the shadow, know the light is close by. We only have the dark because there is the light. The shadow is the product of the light. When you have the shadow, look to the opposite and you will see the light. Don't look to your shadow. Don't look to your pain. Look to the wisdom, the grace that comes on the other side of your pain. Ask your pain to lead you to the light that changes your life. Bring us your shadow. Bring in your shadow. Finally, let them come to rest. Finally, let them build a purpose in your life. Let your shadow be. Let my shadow be. And let our shadow be. Today, we're discussing trauma. I am traumatized. On va parler de traumatisme. Je suis traumatisé. Combien de fois vous prononcez cette phrase? Combien de fois vous entendez prononcer par les autres? How often do you listen to this statement pronounced? Today we'll be having contributions from Dr. Denis Zani from the United States on trauma. But before that, I go to the last messages and I try to capture what those who watched the last shadow wrote. I'm writing here from Mr. Nkesa Emmanuel, who is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Bob. Chiangong Emmanuel, nice to meet you on Shadows. Thank you for this thought-provoking societal maladress issue, the illegitimate child. The child is innocent and merits our love and more. The problem may just be that because most of them come into the world through no desired arrangements, they usually grow up portraying some negative behaviors. Actually, if any stigmatization, it should instead be attributed to the mother, not the child. The mother perhaps conformed to an informed decision, but the child is innocent because she didn't decide on his procreation. Kinsey Emmanuel from Fundong in Bamenda, Northwest, the Northwest region. We also have another beautiful message from Mr. Good evening, Mr. Chiangong. I am Pastor Augustine Anye. I'm watching from Bamenda. My contribution on this topic is firstly, we humans are all created in the image of God. Therefore, it's not good to call a child bastard or out of wedlock. It's not good at all. Therefore, this child did not request to be born, but because of relationship between a man and a woman during sexual time, this child came in. Therefore, let the family, society welcome these kids and love them. God bless you. Thank you, Reverend Anye or Pastor Anye. And then, of course, we have this other message that is coming from Mr. Edwin Sexe, who is a specialist in mental health and psychosocial support, working with the Bingo Baptist Hospital in Northwest. Thank you very much for this interesting topic. Calling a child an illegitimate child is dehumanizing and has far-reaching psychological consequences on the lives of these children. I have come across children suffering from severe depression because of this same subject and regarded as outcasts in our society today. Chiangong Edin and so on. So working in the Bingo Baptist Hospital, congratulations and receive my support for the wonderful work you are doing in the mental health department. Labeling a child as illegitimate can have severe, long-lasting psychological consequences on their mental health. And he went on to develop a good number of them, which is just beautiful. So these are feedbacks from our last topic, the illegitimate child. Là-bas, nous avons des témoignages de ceux qui ont suivi les dernières missions sur l'enfant illégitime ou bien l'enfant né hors de mariage. Aujourd'hui, nous parlons de traumatisme. Est-ce que vous avez déjà été traumatisé, diagnostiqué comme quelqu'un traumatisé? You have heard of post-traumatic stress disorder. You have heard of other traumatic situations, events. Are these words used appropriately? Est-ce qu'on utilise ces mots comme il faut? Ça veut dire quoi être traumatisé? In psychology, trauma is a deeply distressing emotional response to events that threaten an individual's physical and psychological safety, such as death, serious injury, or even sexual violence. These events are overwhelming and exceeds a person's ability to cope, leading to long-term negative consequences. These events are very, very violent. They exceed the person's ability to cope, and they lead to long-term negative consequences, which means trauma is something that comes beyond your resources to be able to process it. you lack the simple ability. You've done nothing wrong. You are just not adequately equipped to address the issue, and you are overwhelmed. And things happen without your ability to manage them, and they end up where you do not desire, where you don't even know. And this can bring long-lasting consequences. And this is why consequences can be very damaging, because you were not part of the route that led to those consequences. So you don't even know the path that is getting there. And if they ask you to go resolve it, you don't even know where to begin. Alors le traumatisme, ce sont des effets, des manifestations, des expériences difficiles qu'un individu rencontre qui affectent sa sécurité de point de vue physique et psychologique. C'est généralement associé à des violences intenses et même la violence sexuelle. Ça dépasse les moyens de l'individu à le gérer, et puis ça finit par le condamner dans des contextes, dans des positions qu'il n'a plus d'habilité ni les capacités de se retirer de. Alors, plus tard, plus longtemps dans sa vie, il va subir ou elle va subir des conséquences négatives. One of the most highlighted speakers on the subject of trauma, and I'm happy because I'll be profiling his book today, is Dr. Gabo Mate. Beautiful, nice Canadian spirit, a Jewish Canadian who talks on the pain of humans with a very humanistic energy and presence. Dr. Gabo Mate defines trauma as the internal psychological wound that results from the external event that triggered it. Trauma being the invisible force that shapes our lives, shaping the way we live, the way we love, the way we make sense of the world around us. It shapes the way we live, the way we love, and the way we make sense of the world around us. Donc le traumatisme, selon cet écrivain et cet médecin très 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 engagé dans la lutte contre le traumatisme pendant toute sa vie, le juif canadien Dr. Gabo Mate, une des autorités mondiales sur le discours sur le traumatisme. Il définit le traumatisme que c'est cette blessure psychologique interne qui est le résultat de ce qui nous a arrivé de désagréable. Et que le traumatisme, c'est une force invisible qui façonne notre vie, qui façonne notre façon de vivre, qui façonne notre façon d'aimer, qui façonne notre façon de voir le monde dans lequel nous vivons. Donc c'est un écran par lequel on voit le monde. Et vous voyez, si on est des regards qui est voilé, forcément on ne nous voit pas comme on est. Et ce qu'on voit n'est pas forcément ce qu'il est. This is too much happening too fast and too soon, such that our resources are insufficient to warrant us comprehend. Imaginez tout ce qui peut se passer de façon envahissante, trop vite et trop rapidement et de façon inattendue, de façon surprenante. Tel que même si on avait des ressources, on n'a pas eu la possibilité de les mobiliser pour affronter cette agression. We don't have the ability to process accordingly. Some of the causes of trauma are death, serious injury, natural disaster, major accident, wars, acts of violence and abuse, especially physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. Traumatic or sudden death of a loved one. Witnessing or learning about these events happening to others will traumatize you. Certaines des causes du traumatisme, c'est la mort subite, la mort des personnes qui sont très proches à nous, c'est des désastres naturels, les calamités naturelles, les accidents graves majeurs, la guerre et les conséquences, les séquelles de la guerre, les violences et les abus qui peuvent être physiques, émotionnels et même sexuels. Il y a la mort soudaine de quelqu'un qui est très proche à nous. Vous savez, vous avez entendu, vous avez vu, vous avez peut-être vécu la mort par accident, c'est soudain, ou la mort inattendue. Et je ne veux pas penser à cela facilement parce que j'ai aussi eu des expériences de vivre personnellement et accompagner des personnes dans cet chagrin assez difficile tels que certains pensent que leur propre vie ne sert à rien. Alors, donc, si vous avez vécu les expériences traumatiques ou entendu parler des expériences traumatiques, vous pouvez être traumatisé également. Donc, vous faites très attention. Il est tellement contagieux. Il est tellement contagieux. Dr. Basil van der Kolff, great fellow, Dutch psychiatrist, psychologist, and mental expert, one of the most vocal and respected voices in the world of trauma. There are wounds that never show on the body, that are deeper than more hurtful than anything that bleeds. Le docteur Basil van der Kolff, je donne toutes ces références parce que je sais que je m'adresse à des élèves universitaires qui sont des psychologues ou qui sont dans la psychopathologie ou différents métiers. Je m'adresse à des professionnels de la santé mentale, je m'adresse à des parents, à des personnes éveillées qui veulent se cultiver. Donc ce sont des références crédibles que vous pouvez continuer à faire des recherches. Il est important qu'on s'éduque sur ces sujets. So Dr. Basil talks about trauma in these terms. There are wounds that never show on the body, that are deeper and more hurtful than anything that bleeds. Il y a des blessures qui ne se montrent pas sur la chair ou sur le corps, qui sont profondes dans le corps et qui font plus de mal que tout ce qui saigne. Anything that is human is mentionable. Anything that is mentionable can be manageable. When we talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. This is the doctor. He tells you how it can be bad, but he gives you hope in this word. Anything that is human, that is mentionable, anything that is mentionable can be manageable. And when we talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and of course, less scary. This is looking at the other side of the table. Donc, docteur Basil, en guise de l'espoir, après avoir parlé de ces blessures qui ne se voient pas, mais qui fait plus mal que les blessures qui saignent, il dit, tout ce qui est humain peut être mentionné. Tout ce qui est humain peut être mentionné. Lorsqu'il est mentionnable, ça peut être géré. Et dès qu'on parle de nos sentiments, ces sentiments deviennent moins envahissants, moins dérangeants et moins éprouvants pour nous aider à regarder les problèmes de traumatisme avec beaucoup d'espoir. Let us have a little jingle and we look at the science of trauma, neurobiology and trauma. Jingle, please. Hello, welcome once more. We are on Shadows by Emmanuel Chiangong. The numbers on your screen, 681903000 are meant, that number is meant for you to reach us with your worries, your feelings, your traumas. Come to us with them. We will have therapies for you, and of course, to contribute to this program, to give us your encouragement, your support, and of course, to be able to share these messages with those who may need them at all times. My name is Emmanuel Chiangong. I am a mental health specialist, a clinical psychologist, a mind-body therapist, and a beauty consultant. When trauma sets in, there is an altered function and connectivity in key brain regions like the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala is the primitive brain that actually is the center that gives the immediate reaction for survival. The hippocampus manages the memories, and of course the prefrontal cortex is the part higher brain involved in reasoning. Stress hormone levels rise. This can impair the prefrontal cortex ability to regulate emotions, leading to heightened amygdala activity and a persistent fight, fright, freeze, flag, faint. We can go up to 6 responses in situations of trauma. Donc, Scientifiquement, le cerveau a le secteur frontal, le cortex frontal, qui est le siège de l'intelligence, de la réflexion, de la régulation et bien sûr de la coordination et le planning. Donc, il réfléchit avant de décider, mais on a le cerveau primitif, l'amygdala, qui réagit en situation de traumatisme pour garantir sans réflexion le survie. Et l'hippocampus qui gère les mémoires, qui sont des éléments utiles dans comment on se comporte dans des situations qui nous challenge. Alors donc le comportement du cerveau est tout de suite altéré en situation de traumatisme. Le traumatisme va jouer un rôle déstabilisant dans la capacité du cortex frontal de réguler ses émotions et ça peut laisser le cerveau primitif, l'amygdala, prendre le dessus avec les réponses comme la fuite, être figé, la lutte et la démission et la résignation. Voilà, j'essaie de traduire. Voyez. The autonomic nervous system takes over this with the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems. These two systems come in whenever we are challenged. Sympathetic to activate, put us in a situation of a defensive situation of fighting or fleeing away from the situation. And then the parasympathetic system comes in to regulate by bringing in, you know, the softening aspects of relaxation that will promote digestion and, of course, regeneration as the outcome. So the human body is so marvelously made, is so magically built, such that we can accelerate and we have a system not under conscious nervous system, no, not the brain as it is, but the autonomous nervous system comes in to regulate, accelerate, and slow down. So they are responses that are immediately brought into action whenever we go into a situation of trauma. The first, freeze. This orientates us to a state of better understanding the stimulus that has been received. You just go into a state of freezing, which means you try to understand what is happening. Is it danger or it is not danger? That is understanding the actions. It is an opportunity to judge. This next thing that will happen is flight or fight when danger comes in. The initial is to flee, but if it's impossible to flee, we have to defend ourselves by resorting to fight, and that is when the sympathetic nervous system is activated. And then, of course, you can see the way you behave in your own situations. Then, of course, fright can come in when we are not able to flee away from the danger, and so panic, dizziness, nausea, lightheadedness shoots into place. We go into flak when we find the danger coming and we are getting overwhelmed, and this is like the system collapse. The central nervous system collapse is shut down. We are helpless. There is numbness. There is blurred vision. There is dissociation. And finally, we faint. Fainting is an opportunity still in the line of self-defense, because when you get into this physiological state, the body is not functioning at optimum level. When you faint, it means you have not been having enough oxygen supply to the brain, and in a horizontal position, blood flows easily to the brain, and you have a chance of waking up the central nervous system and giving you an opportunity to think again and act. So this has been carefully described as through the polyvagal theory, which explains how trauma affects the nervous system and how we respond. Donc, il y a tout un schéma sur comment le cerveau fonctionne. Nous avons ces différentes 6 étapes par lesquelles, lorsqu'on est traumatisé par un événement, on est surpris par une agression, ou lorsqu'on se sent menacé, là où la vie est menacée, on a ces 5 différentes étapes qui sont bien sûr être figé, la fuite ou le bagarre pour se défendre, être effrayé et puis bien sûr démissionner, entrer dans une situation de déconnexion au traumatisme parce qu'on est dépassé par les émotions et puis on s'évanouit à la fin. Tout cela sont des schémas physiologiques qui aident à nous permettre de survivre. Bien sûr, ce n'est pas dans toutes les situations qu'on finit par le faire, mais la nature nous donne ses capacités. So through the polyvagal theory, we have the ventral vagal social engagement, which is when we are doing well, we easily feel safe to connect, to interact, to have fun, to play. When we are in danger, the sympathetic nervous system sets in so that we go in for defensive mechanisms to flee from the danger, save our lives, or fight and defend ourselves. Here, the blood supply is accelerated by stronger heartbeats, and of course, the muscles get into activity, the breathing becomes intense because we have to provide enough oxygen for the energy required for this flight or fight. And then, of course, we have the dorsal vagal, which is a shutdown freeze when we are overwhelmed. This is what we call the polyvagal ladder, which permits us, these theories, explain what actually happened. C'est toute une lecture assez intéressante, même pour la culture, de vous intéresser à comprendre comment l'être humain se comporte. Mais avant qu'on va continuer, nous aimerons avoir la contribution du Dr. Denis Hanzani, psychologue, psychothérapeute basé à New York aux États-Unis. Après le jingle, on va écouter ce qu'elle a nous dit comme sa contribution sur le sujet de traumatiser. We are having this contribution coming de traumatisme, mais même le traumatisme intergénérationnel, c'est-à-dire certains des comportements que nous subissons aujourd'hui peuvent être liés à ce que nos ancêtres avaient subi. On peut imaginer que toutes les guerres d'indépendance des pays africains, même celui du Cameroun, ont été très traumatisants pour certaines communautés et peuvent jouer un rôle sur le comportement des descendants de ces communautés. On a vu comment ça s'est passé avec des Juifs, on a vu comment ça s'est passé avec les Africains dans le diaspora, dans l'Amérique du Sud, dans les différents pays européens et américains, comment le noir américain peuvent être par rapport à un Africain de diaspora qui vit aux États-Unis. Vous allez voir que c'est deux personnages différents. Il est possible qu'on commence à donner certaines de ces raisons sur les bases des traumatic reassuring. And the Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Certaines citations bibliques, l'un des grandes ressources d'apaisement, d'assurance, de guérison en cas de traumatisme. We'll have the jingle and we go look for one of the great minds in the world of trauma in the book review. Jingle, please. It's very dark in this studio, and I want to be reading from a great mind. So why not, you get the studio lighted up and the book. Sometimes when I hold books, I have some beautiful agitations going through my spine, like some kundalini, for those who know what I mean. The book is entitled The Myth of Normal, and by no other one than Gabo Mate on shadows. Shadows bring you books that will help your journey in mental health, as mental health experts, as students in psychology and in clinical counseling, in social work. These are readings that you must have in your library. I bring these books to you because Shadow's mission is to heal the world. And all healing knowledge that's available that I can lay my hands on, I'll bring them here and provoke you. But you also read to educate, to nourish your mind. Don't forget mental balance. There is also intellectual and dimension to it. Gabo Mate wrote this book with his son Daniel Mate. Livre publié par Gabo Mate, Dr. Gabo Mate et son fils Daniel Mate, The Myth of the Normal. Je ne peux pas commencer à traduire. On va trouver ces livres dans toutes les langues que vous voulez. Ce sont des best-sellers. In The Myth of the Normal, Gabo Mate takes us on an epic journey of discovery about how our emotional well-being and our social connectivity, in short, how we live, are intimately twined with health, disease, and addiction. Chronic mental and physical illnesses may not be separate and distinct diseases, but intricate, multi-layered processes that reflect maladaptations to the cultural context that we live in and the values we live by. The context we live in and the values we live by. Underline that. This riveting and beautifully context that we live in and the values this riveting and beautifully written tale has profound implications for all of our lives, including the practice of medicine and mental health, and written by no other than a great pillar in the world of trauma, Dr. Basil N. van der Kolk, MD, President, Trauma Research Foundation, Professor of Psychiatry, Boston University School of Medicine, and author of The Body Keeps the Score. Another book I'm looking for, which I'll bring to you, I promise. The Body Keeps the Score. C'est-à-dire le corps gère le stock de tout ce que tu lui fais. Il y a un magasinier dans le corps qui gère le stock de tout ce qu'il vit. In the most health-obsessed society ever, all is not well. Health and wellness has become a modern fixation. Multi-billion-dollar industries bank on people's ongoing investment, mental and emotional, not to mention financial, in endless quest for eat better, look younger, live longer, or feel livelier, or simply to suffer fewer symptoms. We encounter would-be bombshells of breaking health news, our magazines covers, in TV news stories, omnipresent advertising, and the daily deluge of viral online content, all pushing this or that mode of self-betterment. We do our best to keep up. We take supplements, join yoga studios, serially switch diets, sell out for genetic testing, strategize to prevent cancer or dementia, and seek medical advice or alternative therapies for maladies of the body, psyche, and soul. And yet, our collective health is deteriorating. What is happening? How are we to understand that in our modern world, at the pinnacle of medical ingenuity and sophistication, we are seeing more and more chronic physical diseases as well as afflictions such as mental illnesses and addictions. The book, The Myth of Normal, sets insights on something far more encompassing. I have come to believe that behind the entire epidemic of chronic afflictions, mental and physical, that beset our current moments, something is amiss in our culture itself, generating both the rush of elements we are suffering and, crucially, the ideological blind spots that keep us from seeing our predicament clearly. The better to do something about it. These blind spots, prevalent throughout the culture, but endemic to a tragic extent in our own profession, keeps us ignorant of the connection that binds our health to our social environment, our social emotional lives. Another way of saying it, chronic illness, mental or physical, is to a large extent a function or feature of the way things are and not a glitch, a consequence of how we live and not a mysterious aberration. It is my contention that by its very nature, our social and economic culture generates chronic stressors that undermine well-being in the most serious of ways, as they have done with increasing force over the past several decades. And then, of course, What is Trauma by Gabor Mate? Most of us have heard someone, perhaps ourselves, say something like, oh, God, oh my God, that movie last night was so disturbing. I felt the theater, I love the theater Traumatized. Or we read news stories about university students agitating for content warnings, lest they be traumatized by what they hear. In all these cases, the usage is understandable but misplaced. What people are actually referring to in these cases is stress, physical and emotional. As Peter Levin aptly points out, certainly all traumatic events are stressful, but not all stressful events are traumatic. Limited than before in a way that persists. So what do we say? An event is traumatizing or re-traumatizing only if it renders us diminished, which is to say psychically or physically more limited than before in a way that persists. Trauma separates us from our body. Trauma splits us off from gut feeling. Trauma limits our responses and makes us less flexible. Trauma fosters a shame-based view of ourselves. Trauma distorts our view of the world. Trauma alienates us from the present. It cuts us from reality. And it didn't start with you. Of course not. We have talked of intergenerational trauma. But just like we were saying, in situations of trauma, what do we do? Let us have the jingle, and we should go see the therapist. Jingle, please. You're welcome to the therapist aboard. The candles are lighted. We have soothing plants. We have diffuse essence. We have beautiful nature around it. Believing we have a conducive environment in which we can explore our traumatic challenges. Donc, le signal du son du bol tibétien nous reçoit dans le demeure du thérapeute avec les essences, la lumière tamisée, la nature qui nous entoure, le son apaisant. Et lorsqu'on est avec le thérapeute, quelles sont les différentes possibilités d'explorer? Most of the time we come to see the therapist with psychosomatic manifestations that have not received any response to medical, any positive response to medical attention. We're having headaches, sleepless nights, unexplained traumatic pain, pain that we cannot explain, digestive problems, ulcers, repetitive nightmares, flashbacks, and these experiences keep us in a state of complete distress and overwhelmed, and so we look for the therapist. We've gone to see the medical doctors, we've taken drugs, and we are not getting any response, and we go to the therapist. As a psychologist, I specialize in helping people recover from pain of traumatic events. I have also walked my own healing path. These two converge into a passion for resilience and post-traumatic growth. These are the words of Dr. Ariel Schwartz, one of my mentors and teachers in EMDR therapy and traumatic stress disorder therapy. We adapt to adversity by orienting to our strength, attending to our pain, and taking charge of the narrative that defines our lives. I believe we all have the capacity to overcome adversity. The therapist brings you hope. En tant que thérapeute, je passe toute ma vie à apporter le bonheur, le bien-être et l'assurance à tous ceux qui ont subi des traumatismes, des fois consciemment ou inconsciemment. Mes vécus personnels de traumatisme et des difficultés sur la terre m'a donné la capacité de connaître comme un peu ce que les autres ont vécu et surtout de développer la résilience et une passion d'accompagner les gens à travers les soucis de post-traumatiques, c'est-à-dire après les vécus après des expériences traumatiques qui peuvent venir des fois même de leur enfance. Nous pensons qu'on devait mobiliser nos efforts et les orienter à apporter le changement dans la vie des autres, pas seulement dans ce qu'ils ressentent, mais ce qu'eux ils décrivent. Quels sont les mots qui sortent de leur bouche? Ça doit raconter une autre histoire, bonheur, réussite, apaisement et équilibre psychologique. Nous savons que tout le monde a une capacité de guérir, même s'ils ont rencontré des difficultés. Pour être un bon thérapeute, to be a good therapist, qualities like compassionate support come in. And that is when Carl Rogers comes in with his other values in terms of the therapeutic relationship. There is an intelligent guidance. On ne peut pas résoudre des problèmes de traumatisme en tâtonnant. There must be a diagnosis and there must be the intelligence, wisdom accumulated over time, brought through proven effective therapies, and that have been practiced currently with scientific basis and proven that we came in with white and we went out with green, seeing the change that took place and sustained results. Our injury does not occur in a vacuum, so our healing as well will not occur in a vacuum. La plupart du temps, les traumatismes n'arrivent pas parce qu'on était seul, forcément. Il est arrivé à travers les personnes qui nous entourent ou l'absence de personnes qui devaient être là. Les traumatismes des enfants arrivent toujours parce que le parent est absent, parce que l'enfant est abandonné, parce que l'enfant est négligé ou l'enfant est abusé. Donc les personnes supposées garantissent la sécurité, l'apaisement, l'assurance de ces enfants sont ceux qui les ont exposés à l'abus ou qui étaient des complices dans cela. Et donc, lorsque cet enfant va guérir, elle ne va pas guérir dans le vide. Elle va guérir en association avec tous ceux qui étaient impliqués. Donc, la thérapie doit intégrer ces facteurs. We cannot heal alone. Our hurt and losses need to be repaired interpersonally. Donc, toutes ces blessures et tous ces chagrins, ces séquelles doivent guérir de façon interpersonnelle. Les thérapies cognitives ont fait un effort de ramener le client à reconnaître les croyances négatives ou les croyances distorsionnées associées au traumatisme pour permettre à la personne de recycler ce traumatisme sur de nouveaux pensées, sur de nouvelles réflexions. On réécrit, en quelque sorte, réécrit la logiciel mental sur quelles sont les croyances qui se sont développées dans le traumatisme vécu, ces croyances qui sont des croyances négatives ou qui empêchent la guérison. So we talk about blocking beliefs here. And then of course in prolonged exposure, we gradually and safely expose our client to memories related to the trauma in a progressive way, such of an in vivo desensitization, progressively get them used to this trauma until they realize that those traumas are no longer dangerous. Alors, dans une deuxième thérapie, progressivement, on amène la cliente à se sentir à l'aise dans des souvenirs des traumatismes qu'ils ont vécu dans le passé, tel qu'il finit par reconnaître que ces traumatismes ne sont plus dangereux. Alors, dans le EMDR, in the EMDR, which is the eye movement desensitization reprocessing, we use bilateral stimulations that may be buzzing, that may be tapping movements, or that may be hand movements while the eye observes, to be able to reprocess the trauma in the brain. It's a beautiful exercise, but the story on trauma is not ending only with this episode. We are going to have more episodes on shadows with trauma, where I may sometimes take some therapies as the main issue to develop them. And this is a powerful tool today that is headline news in trauma therapy using the EMDR therapy. It helps to reduce progressively the intensity of the negative effects of the trauma, and of course to completely efface the blocking beliefs, but it goes through very nice stages of, identifying with the client the trauma and actually helping them to build resources to be able to go through the reprocessing so that they don't develop other traumatic effects in the process. It's a beautiful therapy which just works wonders and marvels. Donc, l'EMDR, c'est une des thérapies qui est top sur la liste, qui est une procédé qui n'est pas complètement expliqué, mais qui travaille comme une magie. Tu vas voir toutes les grandes psychothérapeutes parler des résultats acquis en 1, 2, 3 séances de EMDR, comment des traumatismes qui ont déstabilisé des vies des dizaines d'années s'effacent complètement. Donc ça passe par d'abord aider, accompagner le client à identifier le traumatisme qu'ils ont vécu, valider qu'ils ont des ressources nécessaires pour vivre le procédé de démanteler ou de déconstruire cet traumatisme, voire construire les ressources avec eux, les donner des capacités de vivre le processus de reprogrammation de ce traumatisme et puis les apporter progressivement par une stimulation bilatérale. On peut utiliser les mains pour faire bouger les yeux comme dans le REM, le sommeil REM, et puis ça fait comme si réécrit dans le cerveau les effets destructifs de traumatisme et reconstruit un message plus harmonieux et refaire une autre histoire de traumatisme. On n'oublie pas, mais il perd sa capacité de nous déstabiliser. Généralement parlant, le voyage de traumatisme ne sera pas un seul sujet. On va revenir sur le sujet, revoir toutes ces différentes thérapies, mais surtout le message qui vient avec ces échanges que nous sommes en train d'avoir, c'est que vous pouvez être guéri de votre traumatisme. Le message est le comportement que vous avez dans votre lieu de travail qui vous pose des problèmes avec les collègues. Ces difficultés que vous avez à vivre avec une femme en tant qu'un homme ou avec un homme en tant qu'une femme peuvent être des problèmes venant des traumatismes de votre enfance ou différents vécus de votre vie qui n'ont rien à faire avec vous. Vous ne pouvez pas continuer à être dans le défensif, à continuer à être résistante, parce qu'il y a des solutions. Vous devez prendre le moment de voir un thérapeute, quelqu'un, un professionnel, qui peut vérifier, en prenant votre cas comme son cas, vous accompagner à démanteler ces fantômes qui existent dans votre vie que vous ignorez. Rappelez-vous, le traumatisme, c'est ce que vous vivez après. Mais ce qui a créé ce traumatisme, vous ne le connaissez plus. Parce que ça s'est passé à un moment où vous n'avez pas la capacité de le mesurer, même de le comprendre, même de voir son ampleur. So the most important thing about the discussion on shadow is for you to understand that this trouble you have with colleagues at your work site, meeting your deadlines, being able to have a harmonious relationship with your children, or to live comfortably with a wife or with a husband, these things that make us antisocial human beings, inefficient in living with others. This makes us nasty people, painful people to live. May just be trauma coming from different ages or stages of your developmental stages in life, maybe from even your childhood, which you don't really know. You believing that you have the points, you are right, you have some mental argument to justify, but every time you have repeated conflicts in your life, there's something underlying it. You may just think it's time for you to see a therapist, that we could go and explore it and free you from it. Trauma can be healed. This is the good news. And that it is not your fault that you are traumatized. It happened when you were overwhelmed with situations that you could not comprehend. Sometimes you didn't have even the resources to understand what was happening. And this good news, I want you to share it with all those around you by sharing this program, by discussing it, by reflecting, by going back on some decisions that you took against your loved ones, by reflecting on whether you use all the resources you have, by going back on yourself, by being humble, by giving yourself another chance. You are born a wonderful, made by a wonderful God, a beautiful soul inside of you. There is a possibility that you can bring a smile on many faces. This closing remark on traumas today takes us to the meditation. We have to meditate on trauma, not just the one we are carrying that we are not aware of, but the ones we have heard, others have gone through. And of course, what about when it comes again tomorrow? Are we ready? Have we built up resources to be able to go above it? Because trauma goes in three prongs. We look at what happened in the past, we manage it in the present so as free, but we build capacities for any other thing that may threaten us tomorrow so that we don't fall back low like we were. Keep smiling as you join me in the meditation of I Am Traumatized. Slowly and gradually come back to yourself and let all the reflections that we have been sharing occupy various parts of you, sitting comfortably where they are and making sense to you gradually. Revenez à qui vous êtes, là où vous êtes. Détachez-vous de tout ce qui se passe autour de vous. Respectez le silence et l'écoute à l'intérieur de vous. Le message qu'on vient de partager. Laisse ce message s'installer en vous là où il se sent à l'aise. Et donne-lui le temps de vous imprégner progressivement. Be aware of your breath, your shoulders, the expression of your face. Just be sure you're breathing with your stomach. And don't stay where you felt touch. Come back to who you are, where you are, and start loving the person you are. Continuez à aimer la personne que vous êtes, telle que vous êtes, peu importe ce qu'on pense de vous. Et sourire. Have you been traumatized? Is there a possibility that you are acting from the influence of past traumas? Do you find your children unbearable? Are you cursing, complaining, and screaming every time? Take a step back and watch them from a distance, looking at them through the eye of the discussion we just had. Est-ce que vous êtes traumatisé? Est-ce que vous avez des difficultés à vivre les relations autour de vous, au lieu de travail, en couple? Est-ce que vous trouvez vos enfants insupportables? Est-ce que vous passez le temps à maudire, à jurer, à accuser, à indexer? Est-ce que tout va mal dans votre vie? Est-ce qu'il est difficile pour vous de voir la lumière dans une seule chose, une seule personne? Respirez profondément et détendez-vous. Souriez et laissez-vous aller parce que la méditation est l'une des voies par laquelle on peut trouver qu'il y a une lumière